In the words of Ron Burgundy, boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. You're having a good time here, folks. It's crypto, it's wild, it's volatile. So, gigantic price drop yesterday across the board in the stock market and in crypto. XRP absolutely got slammed as well. So, is now the time to be worried? It is, right? No, now is not the time to be worried. Now is still the time to be excited. So I'm going to explain to you in this very latest Moon Lambo hot jam exactly why we saw what we saw yesterday in terms of price moving precipitously to the downside, why from a historical perspective stuff like this is normal and you should expect it, and a little bit about XRP specific stuff because a little bit towards the end of the video because you'll see from the veterans that have been in the space for quite a while, they are looking at this as an opportunity. In fact, one of my favorite XRP chart analysts out there, he happens to be a trader, which is bad for most people to do, but that's his shtick. Like he's actually good at it. It's just most people get wrecked trading. But he does use leverage. I think that's a bad idea for almost any human. Not for him, but for almost any human. The data just shows that, okay? But he just 10x'd XRP when it was at its low. So suffice it to say, optimism, right? He's very optimistic. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say are right. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so we get headlines like this on days because of days like yesterday. Why did XRP price crash by 18% in 36 hours? Yeah, well, it was actually a little bit more than that. It depends on what source you're pulling your data from. I saw XRP as high as $2.72, and I know on at least some exchanges it got as low as $2.17. So XRP actually dropped a little over 20%. So that's a pretty notable drop, right? Now, at the time that I'm recording this, there's been some recovery. XRP, in case anybody's curious, I'll mention this. It is 7:13 a.m. Central Time, which is my time zone. Thursday, December 19th, 2024. XRP is $2.37. Bitcoin, 102,126 bucks. But look at this if you can look at your screen if you're not already. Just to indicate that there's nothing wrong with XRP, and I do this from time to time. I'm flipping back and forth between the XRP chart and Bitcoin charts on over the last 24 hours, and you can see they are the same damn chart. The fact that XRP went down is because the whole market went down. Nothing changed with XRP. The fundamentals are just as strong as they were yesterday. Nothing's changed from that perspective. This is not a panic scenario. It just straight up purely is not. And as far as top indicators for the market, we're not seeing them. Like we're seeing some of the indicators inching up in a way that should indicate, okay, we're probably in the last phases of this. So maybe I don't know where the peak of the market's going to be. It could be 3, 4, 5, 6 months, something like that. And we'll keep watching. And so I have been highlighting that. Like you can see they're inching closer. And so it's definitely worth being aware of. But are we seeing them close enough to where we should actually be concerned compared to, where those indicators have landed at peaks in the last couple cycles? Well, no, we're not seeing that. So I always leave open the opportunity, the possibility, like, fine, this time could actually be different, which is super rare, that things are dramatically different like that. Fine, so give it a small percentage chance, but I doubt it. And here's the cool thing about it, and this is why it makes sense to just rest easy. If you don't need to pull your money out that you've invested in crypto, then what the hell functionally does it matter to you when you get the profit? It shouldn't anyway, right? That's the right attitude to have when it comes to investing, whatever it takes, however long it takes, right? And so let's say hypothetically, and I do not think that this is about to happen, but just as a hypothetical, because if you let this sink in, it might kind of put your mind at ease. If you're worried about whether or not things are actually over and it's going to come crashing down, well, that's a time horizon problem that you're having right there. Because here's what I would say. Even if that happens and say the market absolutely tanks and it even goes down 80%, God forbid, right? Which happens after market cycle peaks historically. It's very normal. Even if this were the moment where that started to happen, you know what I'd do? I'd do nothing, literally nothing. I'd let the market tank, and I'd be at peace with that, for sure. And then I'd accumulate even more at the bottom, understanding that the market would rebound. So the reason that I'm at peace with this is because it doesn't matter. I don't need to pull the money out, and I won't pull the money out until it's at a point where it's going to sufficiently entice me because it's an outsized portion of my net worth. That means that even if the market tanks, I'm at peace with that because I know the market comes back and it doesn't matter. That's why I'm at peace with it. There's not some sort of magic to this. You know, it's logical. It's if you think that the market's dead forever, you damn fool. Think about it. Of course the market comes back. It does not matter. So even if this were the first time that topped way before indicators would lead one to believe it's logical, then there you go. You just wait a few years and it comes back, and then we're fine anyway. And I'll have accumulated even more during the bear market, so it's going to be even bigger. And sometimes unexpected stuff does happen. Like, for instance, last cycle, I expected I would have sold ideally all of my XRP, but then the SEC sued Ripple, and I missed an entire cycle because of that on XRP. Them's the breaks. Okay. So what I'm saying is, even if something unexpected happened here, which is technically possible, even if it's a low probability, so what? Markets come back. I just lived through one of those things specifically with XRP, as did pretty much all of you, unless you're brand new to crypto, right? Not a big deal. None of this is to be feared over. Like, this is fine. And on top, and again, I don't think that's what's happening. I say that hopefully it's giving you peace of mind. Like, if you change your perspective to just think a little bit more long-term, to where even if that's the case, it doesn't matter. Markets come back. People thought it was the end of the world during the 2008 financial collapse. I remember seeing video clips of people saying, "Oh, I'm never going to be able to retire now." You know, their retirement funds down, whatever the percentage were, like almost by half, 40%. I can't remember what the percentages were. It's dramatic though. And I remember watching old news clips saying, "Oh man, I can't even retire now ever." Now, of course, you know, inside of a few years, like, well, the market bottomed, then inside of a few years, it was just up dramatically. So if you just have a sufficient time horizon, it's all fine anyway. Unless you think like the entire global economy is just going to collapse and we're not going to have a planet anymore. But that's absurd. So you should make peace with this. And this is one of the many reasons I sleep easy at night. This asset class isn't going to go away. Fundamentals have never been stronger for XRP specifically. Crypto across the board is being adopted on a larger scale than ever before, to a degree I've never seen in previous market cycles. These are all reasons to be optimistic and not afraid here. And of course, it is true that we've seen quite a bit of a pullback, but this is normal. I found this article on Yahoo from 2021, because my recollection was that there were 6 major dips in the 2017 bull run. And so I just want to let you know, like, stuff like this is normal. And this isn't even, like what we saw yesterday, it's not even as severe as the deepest stuff we've seen. But I found this article from 2021 on Yahoo Finance, and I just want to share with you one sentence from this here. In 2017, Bitcoin had 12 dips between 10% to 25% deep, and 6 major corrections between 30% and 40%. Now, we didn't even go that deep. It's like for Bitcoin specifically, it didn't even drop 10% yesterday, right? Now, XRP over the time period that I specified at the start of the video, yeah, it was a little over 20%. So what? That's normal. This is absolutely normal. So when things happen in crypto that historically have always happened, and so you should expect them to happen, when those things that history tells you should expect to happen do happen, why the hell would it make logical sense to experience the emotion known as fear? It doesn't, right? Use your logical brain. Your fear brain's kicking in when you see the number go down. Now use logic. Logic tells you that you should absolutely expect this to happen. So now that I'm trying to help you. So if you just let that sink in, can you now let that logic override whatever your fear is and just let it go? Because it doesn't matter. And this is always going to happen in crypto. Always. Now, eventually you find, you're going to see less volatility, but there'll still be, bad days, bad weeks, so on and so forth. But once the asset class is more mature, yeah, it'll be less volatile. But until that point, it's always going to be like this in terms of extreme volatility. Absolutely. But see, that's what creates the opportunity. You don't like it to the downside, fine, but it trends up. So then when you get the extreme volatility to the upside, that's what makes it worth it. It's all fine. But everything took a beating. Here you can see the Russell 2000 down 4.39% yesterday. Now, those are baby percentages in crypto, but that's huge in traditional finance. That is a gigantic drop. Here you have the S&P 500 down yesterday 2.95%. That's a massive percentage for legacy finance. Very, 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 very big. And now, mind you, from a fundamental perspective, nothing has changed with the individual stocks from one day to the next, effectively, right? Same thing with crypto. It's just fear-based responses. And then this creates the opportunity for people who want to purchase anyway. It opens up the door to buy stuff on sale. That's what this is, period. Here you can see Watcher Guru shared this. He wrote, showing how red everything was yesterday. Just in, over $1.5 trillion was wiped out from the U.S. stock market today. So is it an actual apocalypse? Is this the end of the world? Or is it just a day that scared some people who are investing based on their emotions rather than logic and reason and data? You know what the answer is, obviously. It's just the typical lemming retail investors doing what they're doing. And that in conjunction with people who are leveraged and getting liquidated. It's both. It's just completely, so that's why I'm going to have none of it. All I have to do after I buy stuff is nothing, which for people is harder than it sounds. I get that. I have no trouble with that. It just, because data tells me that's how you win in the stock market, and that's how you win in crypto. You buy stuff, and then whether it's up or down, you do nothing until one day you're sufficiently enticed to sell because it comes an outsized position of your net worth. Or at least that's what you do whatever you want. That's how I'm looking at it. And so I posted this yesterday in the afternoon, and I was just joking, of course. I wrote, "Goodbye, net worth. I hardly knew ye." Just kidding. This dip in a bull market doesn't matter. Freaking FOMC days. And I will tell you, like, my net worth recently has never been as high as it has been. And I'm very thankful that, and a huge chunk of it is crypto, just this outsized portion, but we're still not at the peak, so I'm still not cashing out to United States dollars, though I intend to heavily. But yeah, I was not freaking out about this at all. It's because it's an FOMC day, which is Federal Open Market Committee, and there are expectations about the federal funds rate, of course, which more on just a second here. First, I want to share this post from chart analyst Crypto Michael. And this is the sentiment that you see from people that have been here for a number of years and are able to control their emotions. He says, "I love bull market dumps. The strongest pumps follow soon after. While you're crying, whales are buying." Yeah, well, I believe that's likely to be correct. Now, at this point, before recording this video, it wasn't necessary to make this video, so I didn't check and see what have whales done over the last 24 to 36 hours. I'd be willing to bet they purchased. So I'll probably have some data in that in a future video, but yes, that's the typical behavior. Whales purchase fear from typical lemming retail speculators. That is exactly what they always do. So that won't surprise me. Now, so what happened? Let's dig into this because chart analyst Ali Martinez had an excellent breakdown of this. And I'm going to share with you most of what he shared in this post. I'm going to trim out just a small bit of it just for the sake of time, but I'm going to get the key points out to you. And so most of the time when you see extreme volatility in the world of crypto, it really is just speculators speculating, and there isn't rationale for why the market moves. It's more like the market's moving, and then whatever's happening in the moment, that's attributed to why the market's moving. But very rarely in those instances does it make sense, because you can see, like, is this a new news event? Did the movement for crypto to the downside, did it line up with whatever you're saying is causing it? And almost always the answer is no. In this case, it does line up perfectly. And we know to expect volatility on these FOMC days, so it's not surprising at all, to be honest with you here. So this was caused by what happened yesterday. It's the Fed, absolutely. And it's ridiculous, but it is what it is. So anyway, here's what he wrote. "What's the deal with today's market chaos? The Fed went ahead with a predictable 25 basis point rate cut, which is 0.25%. No surprises there. 97% of people expected it. But then Bitcoin tanked around $100,000. Why? Let me explain without the usual Fed jargon. First, markets aren't about what just happened. They're about what might happen. The 25 basis point cut? That was priced in long before Powell even walked up to the mic. What rattled markets was the Fed's updated outlook for 2025. And it wasn't what anyone wanted to hear. Here's the too long didn't read version. He's got 4 bullet points. Number 1, instead of 3 rate cuts in 2025, we're looking at just 2. Bullet point number 2, inflation. The Fed thinks it'll hang around longer than we'd like. Number 3, they bumped 2025's inflation forecast from 2.1% to 2.5%. And number 4, even 2026 is pegged at 2.1% above their 2% goal. So bottom line, the Fed sees inflation as a problem they'll still be fighting in a year or two. Translation, rates could stay higher longer. Okay, so that's the thing. So those are the parts that he's saying weren't expected. And there's another big one, which I'll get to in just a second here. But those are some of the big reasons, right? And the market doesn't like to get caught off guard like this. It doesn't like uncertainty either. And so that's the reason, for instance, before the election, I said many times, I said, even if the market doesn't get what it would prefer, which obviously was the Trump win, it's very clear that's what the market wanted, and the market got it. I said, even if the market didn't get what it wanted, it doesn't mean the bull runs over. The market would be disappointed. It could move to the downside, but we're still in this liquidity cycle. Money, it is what it is. It's still flowing, and the market would rebound. And maybe that would mean that, the blow off top would have been lower than it otherwise would have. Who knows? Maybe there's some small percentage of people who are just freaked out by whatever. Who knows? But it doesn't mean that you wouldn't have it. It's just that if the market doesn't get what it wants, or it's caught off guard, you can have these knee-jerk reactions. It doesn't mean that they won't quickly recover, because once that uncertainty is removed about who is going to be in charge in this case, in terms of the White House, the whole administration, once that's known, at least people can adjust to the new reality, and then there's still money to invest and they'll do it. It's just you get these knee-jerk reactions. That's all it was. And so similarly here with this FOMC day yesterday, you got a knee-jerk reaction. This is not ideal news according to market participants, broadly speaking, and they responded. And then what's happening, the market, it's going to adjust and make peace with the new reality, and we're still in the bull market. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't actually change anything for the big picture, not really. In the short term, it did. It freaked people out, and we had a drop. Okay. Anyway, he has more to say, though, so check this out. Inflation's like that house guest who was supposed to leave months ago but keeps extending their stay. The real market shaker, Powell's closer call comment. And this is it. Check this out. This really freaked the market out. It says, during his press conference, Powell dropped this little nugget. And this is a quote from Powell, Fed chair. Today was a closer call, but we decided it was the right call, end quote. That's it. That was the sentence. Again, today was a closer call, but we decided it was the right call. Translation, the Fed isn't unanimously on board with these cuts. That one sentence sent the US dollar soaring to levels we haven't seen since 2022. When the dollar climbs, risk assets like Bitcoin and crypto tend to slide. And that's exactly what happened. So what's the takeaway? It wasn't today's 25 basis point cut that made markets freak out. It was the realization that inflation might stick around longer and the Fed's not quite ready to take its foot off the gas. Sentiment is shifting, and 2025 suddenly looks a lot less rosy. For now, keep calm, don't panic sell, and remember, markets hate uncertainty. Folks, that's what I was saying a second ago. Markets hate uncertainty, but they also thrive on it when the dust settles. Let's see where this goes from here. And what he meant is, he's not saying when the dust settles, they thrive on uncertainty. That's just a sloppily worded sentence. What he means is, once the dust settles, they thrive on the certainty that results from that. Very obviously, you can tell that from the context of what he wrote there. So great post, though, overall, right? And this is the right takeaway. Now, some people were there. He was asked also about Bitcoin. What about the Fed holding Bitcoin? And the answer was no, effectively. And so some people are saying that's the reason that Bitcoin and crypto dropped. And I said, no. Not only does the timing not match up, how do you explain the stock market then? When he says that about Bitcoin and the stock market drops at the same time the crypto drops, obviously that's not what caused this. Duh. But do you see why I'm telling you, like, this is not anything to freak out about. Like, markets, they react to stuff like this, and then they recover once they know, and they make peace with whatever the new reality is, and life goes on. This is not a big deal. None of this is a big deal. XRP's fine. Crypto's fine. We're in a bull market still. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Mustache, hashtag altcoins. And this is the crypto total market cap on your screen here, excluding Bitcoin and ETH. The name of the chart is Total 2. And so he writes, Total 2 has now successfully retested the all-time high of 2021. Incidentally, we also saw the same scenario in 2021. Don't let the negative sentiment worry you. I had warned you before the crash that Christmas days are often weak. The biggest fun comes afterwards. And you can see this. So look. It finally broke above the previous high of the cycle, went back up, came back down and retest. Now, I'm not a chart guy, but I've been tracking enough information, perspective, whatever you call it, from chart analysts for a long time. Over 7 years I've been tracking and getting perspective from these analysts. I see this stuff all the time. Like, this is normal. I do know that, just as a regular person, just following what's going on here. And then look at the previous cycle. Look at this. It finally broke above that 2018 January high. And then, bam, slam back down to test it, and then to the upside. Markets just do this. It just happens. Once you break through what was resistance, you slam back down to test what was resistance as support. If the support is confirmed, then you see a continuation to the upside. Well, what do you think is going to happen here? You think it just went back down to test, and what? Then it's going to break below in a bull market? I wouldn't say that's probable. Here's a post from Charting Guy, and he shared this last night after most of the chaos had finished. It says, now we have confirmation for the 1 hour bullish divergence on Bitcoin. Definitely, at the very least, a local bottom just happened across the board. Yeah, and so that's certainly what it looks like. Since the chaos yesterday, the market has rebounded, and I don't make short-term price predictions, so whether it's a little higher or a little lower by the time you're watching this, but it's not surprising to see what we're saying, just to see what we're seeing. Here's another post from Charting Guy. XRP held support like a champ, and oh yes, it did. So you can see it wicked down to $2.17 here, but it held the key support level around $2.28. Because so wicks that's nothing. I've talked about this many times here. I don't know if I'm getting too into the weeds here, but I guess just for the sake of anybody that's new, wicking down, if it does, so there's this brief little jump, below a support level, or if you're talking about resistance, if you wick above that and then it comes back down, that doesn't invalidate from a charting perspective whatever key level you're looking at. That's all I'm saying. Then there's this from chart analyst Credible Crypto. I got a couple things from him. Here's a post from December 11th. I covered this at the time. And so the price of XRP, when he posted this on December 11th, it was $2.43, and he was warning that, we're probably going to see a bit lower, or at least we could. So he said, XRP looking solid here, fresh local demand formed in the orange zone. And I'll pause to note the orange zone is somewhere around, say, roughly, $1.95 to, around $2.25 based on where he drew it, somewhere around there. Just give you an idea of what he's pointing at, the range he's talking about. And he says, any retests of that zone should be good long opportunities for those looking for an entry. Ideally, we get something like what is pictured. Let's see how price action develops. And isn't it funny how everything just comes together as he's hoping that it would? And so it did, and XRP actually did go higher to whatever degree. And these are just squiggles. It doesn't mean literally that this is exactly how I thought it would look out. He's trying to share a concept here, but it did go up and then it did go back down to that range. And he's taken advantage of it. And again, he's a trader. I think it's a terrible idea for the average person to be a trader. There's a small percentage of humans that are good at it. He's one of them. I have no interest in introducing that level of stress in my life. I don't. It doesn't sound exciting to me. It's just the opposite of what my strategy when it comes to investing is. And I know my strategy works. It's just you buy stuff and then you hold and that's it. So to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like you get life changing without doing this. And then the amount of, it would be just a time vampire. I don't need to suck out additional time from my life to deal with stuff like this when I know I get life-changing wealth just by holding. But anyway, some people want to do it, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine if they want to. And so anyway, he took this as an opportunity. He said, plan the trade, trade the plan. XRP has tagged our optimal trade entry region on lower time frames that I've been discussing for about a week or so. So I've entered a long. Now we simply pray to the crypto gods that it holds. Yeah. And so, what you think is likely to happen doesn't always happen if you're a trader, but he's got a 10x on XRP. So take it for what it's worth, but he's thinking number go up from here. He thinks this is the local bottom. And big picture, he still believes that, XRP is likely to go over $20 this market cycle at the peak. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK, just from this morning, 2:53 a.m. Central Time, so after all the chaos. He says, I was looking at the $2.20 level for a pullback for XRP. We discussed this multiple times on my YouTubes. We got $2.17. Obviously too early to tell yet if that's it, but let's see what happens next. Right. And so he had been talking about that as a real possibility. So there are multiple analysts, and I have been highlighting this because I share not just the rosy sounding potential scenarios, but the scarier sounding ones, because you need to be aware of potential outcomes in the short and long term. Because if you're caught off guard, like the thing about humans, and I know because I am one, believe it or not, is if something happens that you don't understand or you weren't expecting, especially if it's to the negative, that's going to cause lots of negative emotions. And then when you're in that negative emotional state and you're considering making important financial decisions, that's not exactly ideal. So the reason it's worth staying on top of this stuff here, even if you're like me and you're just a hodler, is so that you can control your emotions on the red days, on the days where it's down. That does matter. And you can't just hear it one time and then you're fine. We are human. We need the repetition of this. And in those scary moments, we do need the reassurance, that we should have based on historic precedent and just using logic and data and reason to say, okay, well, not the end of the world. You need that. And no one's going to be perfect, but you can always get better heading that direction. Just always fight towards letting the logic, data, and reason override whatever the scary emotion is. And in fact, the moment you do have a scary emotion, then it probably just means that you need to find out what happened, so accumulate some data, and then probably what will happen is that fear will dissipate. And so even if it's not news you want, at least knowing will help you, because it's the absence of knowledge that is even worse. The absence of knowledge is what causes a ton of the fear. And so when the markets are going down and almost no humans understand why, yeah, they freak out. That's what humans do. So don't act like the typical lemming retail speculator. Be informed and make whatever decision is best for you, of course, but don't do it based on emotion. Use logic and data and reason. And if the answer is to sell, then sell. But don't use the emotions to come to that conclusion. That's all I'm saying. Do whatever's right for you, though. Somebody also said to Crypto Insight UK, what? You said we're on our way to $8 plus, fella, by Christmas, unless I'm mistaken. And that's not quite what he said, though he had talked about a specific range around this time period. And so Crypto Insight UK cleared it up, and he said, clearly you don't watch my content. I said at least 3 times last week the level I was watching for a pullback. I also said $8 was possible, but my base case was $5 plus before New Year. Still 2 weeks for that, boss man. Okay, so he's still anticipating, despite this pullback, which, again, I insist does not matter. I do not believe for a moment this pullback yesterday matters. Not one tiny little bit. I don't care that it, put a notable dent in my net worth. I don't give a damn. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to wait because I think we're going to keep trending up. We're not at the peak of the cycle yet. And so Crypto Insight UK here is still saying his base case before this year is out, and there's not much time left, but he's thinking $5 plus, potentially as high as $8. And when it comes fast, and you should have learned that by now. You saw what happened in November. Over a span of weeks, XRP going up over 450% before retracing a little bit. It happens fast, so don't think it can't happen. Now, that's not a prediction on my part. I'm just saying, in a market like this, expect extreme volatility, both to the downside and to the upside. So what I'm saying is his expectation here of $5 plus at least by the end of the year, that's very plausible. We'll see if it happens, but it's absolutely plausible. So again, suffice it to say, I'm excited. This is a time where all of us should be excited in crypto. This is not a time to be fearful. You should not worry about what happened yesterday. Everything is fine. I'm sure, if I could explain that to Ron Burgundy, I'm willing to bet that even he would agree. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.